my Nalistki was over on this side, once again sitting, and then he began to sing, inviting the story to come in. Shahane nejo, oh 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 oh, Shahane nejo, oh 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 oh, Enikhania, which means the story I'm going to tell is so beautiful. And look, the story is coming in. The story is coming in. Shahane nejo, oh 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 oh, Enikhania. Which means now it's time for you to listen. It's time for you to listen. Yat Eshan, Sheya, Todak Onshit in the Enishlan, Tobahambashichin, Do Kia Ani Dashichi, Do Tanahabili Deshagan, Dashanala, that is Abaran, this cheap allowed as Holia. A quiggy eya shits ekle satanto quikeshta. My matrilineal clan is the Todakoja clan, which means the artesian spring people. My father's clan is by the water's edge. My matrilineal grandfather clan is the towering house. My patrilineal grandfather's clan is Tanahabishni, and that really doesn't interpret into English. And I've lived here, my family has lived here, my ancestors have lived here for thousands of years, and this place is called Dólii Bahane, the high ridge, and this cheap is now this where the valley is full of pine trees. My father got his name when he joined World War II efforts. A number of Navajo young men became Navajo code talkers as it was declassified in, like, I think 1972. They just went down to Chejiltak Community School. At the time it was a BIA boarding school. And they went down with the name of Hasti Dólii Bahane. And Hasti means man, usually a gentleman, some person of distinction. And Dólii is bluebird. And so there was a Marine officer there with a Navajo interpreter, and the Navajo interpreter said, they're the son of Bluebird Man. And the Marine person said, we can't have soldiers named Bluebirds. So the Dooley, which is Bluebird, they changed to Dooley. And so when I found this out, I asked my dad, I said, so why were you all called Bluebird, you know? And then he said, that's not my story to tell. You're going to have to ask your Nalahasti, which is his dad. So I went to go visit him. And then I said, why are you called Bluebird Man? And then he just kind of looked at me, and then he says, oh wait, oh no, it's just kiddo. You know, why ask such an outrageous question? And then I knew I kind of stepped over a boundary, but his wife was really gracious, and so she loved to cook. So we started cooking, and I was peeling potatoes, and his wife said, tell her the story. And he was sitting on this side of the hogan, and he kind of sat up, and he kind of looked around like this, and then he looked up. And then he says, he said, let's go outside. And he says, only if we see a bluebird will I tell you the story. And so we walked outside, and it was a juniper forest. And just as we went, I would say probably like about 100 feet from his sheep corral, there wasn't just one bluebird, but there was like a flock of bluebirds. And then he kind of looked at the bluebirds, and then he looked at me, and then he says, and he was talking to the bluebirds, like, so you really think it's okay? And then he looked at me, and then he says, he says, we'll tell you the story. And what caught me in that moment was, he didn't say, I'm going to tell you the story. He says, we're going to tell you the story. And the word were The birds were there. Animals were there. You felt the breeze. You felt the heat. It was all of that. He told me to feed the fire. And I always looked up to see the smoke rise up through the chimney. And I would always say, Halane, Bininachashi, Hotsin, Hodonlik, which is like, Halane is this word that is undefined, but it's a really kind, loving word where you're bringing so much love and energy into yourself, but at the same time, you're radiating it, and then you're sending it off, and the smoke is carrying it throughout the entire universe. And so I said that because that's kind of like what you're taught as a little kid. My Laleski was over on this side, once again sitting, and then he began to sing, inviting the story to come in. It's like, Shahane Nejo, oh, 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 oh. Shahane Nejo, oh, 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 which means the story I'm going to tell is so beautiful. And look, the story is coming in. The story is coming in. Shahane Nejo, oh, 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 God isn't which means now it's time for you to listen. It's time for you to listen. All the birds, animals, reptiles, and insects had all dispersed in an unfriendly manner because they had gotten into a gigantic fight. And Mountain Lion was so distressed by the destruction that they had caused that he came off of the Western Sacred Mountain, which is located by Flagstaff, Arizona, the San Francisco Peaks. And he had gone to the east, to the south, to the west, to the north. He stood in the center place and grabbed everybody's voice and just flung it out, pulled it out of their throats, and he rolled them up into little balls, threw them in a sack, and he took it back to the top of the mountain. And when he got up there, all of that fighting, bickering, arguing, whatnot was up there. But here, everywhere, all of the birds, animals, reptiles, and insects had no voice. And they couldn't sing, they couldn't talk, they couldn't teach, and I guess worst of all, they couldn't tell a story until this bluebird came. And when Bluebird came, they heard her announce out, Yana ana opa ye ye, where have you all walked to? And as she talked, they say that the vibration of her, the sound vibration of her voice moved the entire earth, and they started coming towards the house that she was building. And she was flying around gathering the things that they would need. And there was one bird on this side of the locale who was rubbing his ears like this and like, all of my earwax is moving. What is this, And he was kind of going like that. And then he flew up to the top of a ponderosa pine tree. And then he says, it's coming from that direction. So they always say nowadays, if your earwax is moving, it's like the question you should ask yourself is, are you listening? Or are you just listening for your own voice? And so that bird flew over, saw where Bluebird was building a house, and went directly into that structure. This bird with crackling earwax said, shh, Aunt Edie, be quiet, shut up. You're not supposed to be saying anything. Hello. And the bluebird looked at the very plain brown bird and says, well, hello, yate to you too. And then finally, the other bird remembered his manners and went, oh, yate. And said, what are you doing here? And the bluebird said, Hawanishli, I'm going to turn this house into a home. And the plain brown bird looked at it and says, why is it in a circle? They on the house bus. I don't know if everybody's gonna like being in a circle. I mean, some people like to be in edges and crevices and dens and caves. And the bluebird said, instead of telling me to shut up and complain, why don't you help me? Oh, wait, why you just have so many words? Deconstructing words, not helpful words. Gushy. All right, I'll help you. You just got to tell me what to do. And so Bluebird said, Digit, Dólii Bahane. So in here, it's like the bluebird is telling you this, Dólii Bahane. And she repeated it 4 times. She said, go to the west, go to the east, go to the south, go to the north, and bring back all of these things so that we can build a nest. And they did. When the nest was built, Bluebird looked over here and says, Khashimiya, what is your name? And the plain brown bird says, Zahalani Inshia. I am the mini voice bird. And they were putting everything together like this, real nice, colliding them, building it up like this. And Bluebird said, you said, how did you end up with so many voices? Oh, I can talk like this, I can talk like that, and I can sing like this and I can sing like that. And then when Mountain Lion came down from the top of the mountain and took out everybody's voice, I took out one of my extra voices. I rolled it up really small like this. I stuck it in my armpit so he wouldn't find it. He took out all my other voices. He took all my other voices. But this morning when I heard you say, I said, I have a voice. And it still works. And here I am telling you, I am sorry I told you to shut up. But, at least we got the Hogan done. Look. And Bluebird looked at the mini voice bird and says, how did you name this? And Zalani said, what? Home. And so the 2 birds went to the east and they sang. And they invited everybody from the depths of the earth, through the roots and all of the systems, all the way up to the surface, to the top of the mountain. Those birds, animals, and reptiles came, same the south, the west, the north. They came to that Hogan, to that whole one. That's how we call it, the whole one. This is my home. And they came in. And then Bluebird says, who wants their voice back? And everybody inside the Hogan raised their hand and said, I see, they just thought it. They couldn't say it. And so Bluebird, she shook her blanket like this, the fringes. And they say feathers fell off into a basket, and it got filled with feathers, and she spat on it. And that was made in that environment where everybody contributed. Bluebird left her bead, her feathers, rolled them like this into the basket, made them into beads like turquoise, the kind that we wear, that we adorn ourselves with. And when they all got their beads on, they got another blue ball that they swallowed, and it opened up their throats. And they could sing, and they could talk. And Bluebird said, Ade kodoni hizak ehta halon dolil, adot anna anlet yadaltje, iza sadiat ehegi, be holt ziliki et ebe yadaltjito. Which is like, from this point on, you now have a voice to say only those words that will construct strength and courage for us to live together in peace. And so to this very day, when we see turquoise on our fingers, we hope to do good. When we wear it around our necks, we hope we speak good. We put it on our ears. We hope we listen to what is most important so that we can build homes that are strong holds and powerful, so that all of our children who walk through this door will be blessed and be a blessing. Dólii Bahane. That's what Bluebird said. Dólii Bahane. Dólii Bahane. She spoke with kindness, she spoke with love, she spoke with gratitude, and she spoke with beauty. And that's the story my Nalahasteen told me the day I asked him, why was he called